This is a short little video about how probability can be represented as a fraction of a population. It's just for some people who are having trouble with this aspect of probability. So it's not higher tier, it's in both higher and foundation. For instance, when we've looked at probability of, say, a tails with a coin, we've said that there's a 0.5 50% chance of getting the heads because there are two possible outcomes, and there's one of those outcomes is a tail, so 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. But we can also represent this probability as a fraction. So we can convert the 0.5 to a fraction, and so tails, the probability of getting a tails is 1 over 2. We can apply that fraction of a population to questions in order to get a probability, because if, say, half of the people in a population have a certain outcome or a certain characteristic, then the probability of finding one of those people at random will be half, because they make up half of the population. And then we can convert it to decimal if we want to. So in this question here, 5,000 people and 1,000 have red hats. So what probability is there of choosing a person with a red hat? Well, all we're going to do is create the fraction from it. So we put the 1,000 over the 5,000, because the 5,000 are those that have the characteristic of having a red hat, and the 5,000 of those altogether. And we can convert that to a fraction with 1,000 over 5,000 and then simplify it to 1 over 5. So in fraction form, the probability of choosing a person with a red hat would be 1/5, or we can then convert it to decimal to divide 1 by 5 and get 0.2. So that's how we can work out a fraction form of the probability from data of a given population. Another question, and the probability of a person wearing a blue scarf is a quarter. If 250 people have been found to be wearing the blue scarf, how many people are there altogether? So we're being shown the probability in fraction form. They might have told us 0.25, but in this case they've told us a quarter. But if a quarter of the people, if the probability of choosing a person with a blue scarf is a quarter, then it means a quarter of the people must have a blue scarf. Remember, this can be an approximation in questions. So for instance, in this case, 250 wear the blue scarf, but they might say, no, 251 wear the blue scarf. How many people are there? So sometimes just because the probability says a quarter, and therefore a quarter of the population have the particular blue scarf, it might have been rounded, so it might not be specifically that amount. But in this question, we've been told 250 wear the blue scarf. So all we're going to do is say, well, quarter probability represents 250 people. So if I multiply this by 4, I will then have the whole population, because a probability of 1 means everything. So a quarter of the population is represented by 250. So if I multiply by 4, I get the whole population. So 1 probability, everything, is 1,000. So there must be 1,000 people. So that's how we can extract probability in a fraction form from a sample size, and how we can also work out portions that a given probability make up, or the overall amount of sample size.